So the first principle set that we're going to talk about and to look at is rhythm and repetition. And they're pretty straightforward terms, right? If something is rhythmic, it can be described as having the effect of recurring or repetitious lines, colors, forms, etc. In this first project, we're going to use just black and white to describe, or to illustrate, I should say, rhythm and repetition. And repetition is the use of similar object, line, or color scheme over and over in the same way. So in this case, we have both rhythm and repetition being shown on the right. What would you say is the rhythmic part of the design on the right? Is there anything rhythmic about it? Yeah, Jason. So these circles and these lines. And what would you say is rhythmic about those? Okay, so they all seem to be traveling, this group in this direction and this group in this direction, creating a rhythm in sort of two different ways. Good. What else? Yeah?
The curved lines up at the top, they're not the same, but they're similar enough that it creates a pattern.
Okay, so we've got sort of the rhythm of lines that move in similar directions with different weights, creating yet another layer of rhythm within this design. So this is not necessarily the best example of rhythm and repetition I've ever seen, right? It's got some problems like this weird line going through it, but it's a great example of how we can use line weight or direction to suggest rhythm. How about repetition? What's repetitious in this? Circles? Absolutely. Solid circles, stroked circles. Yep. The curve of the lines, the repetition of the same curve. So repetition is the repetition of the curve, and rhythm comes from what I think Seth pointed out, right? That you've got thick and thin and almost the same, but spaced just slightly differently. So you've got these two things that come together. Alone, they're just a thing. But together, they start to create a greater whole within this design. So a couple more examples of rhythm and repetition. Let's talk about the one on the left. Where's their rhythm and where's their repetition? Triangles. What would you say? There's lots of different triangles. Do we want to talk about any specific ones? How about here? They look like they're stitched. So the four corners are kind of stitched together. And would you say that this is achieving rhythm, repetition, or both?
Mostly repetition, maybe a little bit of rhythm because they kind of flow out in a sense.
Okay, so they're looking like maybe they're moving, which suggests that there's movement and there's rhythm.
Yeah.
But there's definitely the repetition of these tiny little dots or stitches going around the edge. So it's using both elements to make it more visually interesting. Good. How about in the middle? Do you see rhythm or repetition or both happening there? Good. So we can imagine something that we oftentimes will call sort of the spline of a series of objects, this line that is implied as if these are moving in one direction or another on this imaginary line here. What else? Rhythm or repetition. How many implied circles, large circles, do you see in this? 3. There's no lines around them, right? They're just implied. And in each of those circles, do you see rhythm or repetition illustrated? Okay, repetition of? Okay, good. How about rhythm? Anybody? Do you see rhythm?
Maybe a little bit with where the lines kind of overlap each other.
Okay. Where the lines overlap each other. Talk to me about that.
Well, it kind of suggests that the two circles are taking up the same space. In a sense, like, obviously that's physically impossible, but it just kind of suggests that they're overlapping around the same plane.
So that maybe they're happening at the same time but doing different things, right? That's a very rhythmic. I would not say this would not win any awards for being a fantastic piece of balanced graphic design, but it is a lovely illustration of rhythm in terms of if you're struggling with rhythm and repetition when you do your thumbnails for this project, if you pick up your favorite piece of music and you try to illustrate each of the different instruments within it, it will help you to kind of move forward. If we think about any piece of music that we like, it's got probably at least maybe vocals or percussion or guitar. Like, they're all different levels of musical instruments that might happen in it, all doing different things that make it a great piece of music, right? And in this case, you've got different types of things happening on different layers, kind of moving back and forth, creating that rhythm.